Hi, everyone. I'm Lena Mizrahi. I work for Project Liberty on the Safe Tech, Safe Kids campaign. We're so excited to be partnering here with All Tech is Human, one of our partners in our global alliance for responsible technology. The Safe Tech, Safe Kids campaign is a solutions-driven youth online safety campaign that's focused on calling for immediate action and accountability from tech industry leaders. Everyone experiences technology differently, which is why in my work so far on this campaign, I found it's really important to engage with stakeholder voices, with parents, with technologists, and with us, if I can still call myself a young person now that I've graduated college. Listening to stakeholder voices and concerns helps us understand the patterns and the experiences that we all have and helps us advance effective solutions to these sometimes seemingly very large problems, no matter how complex they are. Stakeholder input is especially important when we're making design decisions, as even the smallest decisions like counts, follower counts, beauty filters dial up and have a huge impact on how we experience the internet and our overall well-being. So the goal of today's event and our Safe Tech, Safe Kids campaign is to facilitate a meaningful conversation between young people who are taking action on this issue and individuals who work in or have worked in the tech industry. The conversation will allow us to present our unique perspectives and share from our vantage points, opportunities, and needs. I'm really excited to hear what everyone has to say and to, just talk through different ideas and solutions and work together, because I know that this issue is very resolvable when we're all in the room together.
And that's why we're here. So let's give it up for Project Liberty. So thank you so much for Lena as well. And then to answer your question, yes, you are young, because the standard is as long as you stand next to somebody older. And that's why,
yes, exactly.
That's why I only do events now with Dr. Ruth, because she's a living legend. But it makes me feel like a newborn baby. But what I want to say right now is Project Liberty has been a valuable partner for our nonprofit, All Tech is Human. So talk to Lena. Also Shilpa, who's going to come up at the end. So after we're done with the panel, Shilpa from the Project Liberty team, who we're also going to see in London when we're in London, December 5th. Is going to say a few words. And we also have Lara, who you've seen back before, and then Joe.
Yay.
Joe is in the back.
Yay,
don't be shy.
Joe.
So Project Liberty has been a partner for us, like Unfinished Live that we did last year at the Shed, where we recorded a podcast, I think interviews with 13 people over 3 days at the McCourt, and then also a project that we did recently with New Public around healthy digital spaces, and then actually our very first Responsible Tech Mixer that we held this year in March. So if this is your first, raise your hand if this is your first Responsible Tech Mixer. Oh, wow, a lot of newbies. I feel like now we need like some kind of a ritual when we have newbies. We'll come up with that for next time. But we started our Responsible Tech Mixer plus interview series in March of this year with Project Liberty as a kickoff with Meredith Broussard for her new book at the time, More Than a Glitch, where we had her on stage. The point is, if you have ideas of how we can tackle issues like you're doing with the Safe Tech, Safe Kids campaign that you can see at safetechsafekids.org. That's the point of this, is that if we can tap into our collective intelligence and our passion as a community, that's what causes a win, right? Because part of the problem, as we're going to talk about today, is that we've had a small sliver of society determine the rules and the platforms for all of us, affecting how we go about our day, how we see the world, how we communicate with others. And part of the pushback is saying, wait a minute, how do we design this in our image? What are our values? What do we want from communication? What do we want from social media? So without further ado, we are going to step off stage, and I'm going to bring on Sabrina, who's the project manager of Headstream, who's also been a partner with All Tech is Human. So Sabrina, come up on stage, and we're going to bring in all of our fine panelists, and we're going to just sit over here. Sabrina, if you want.
Mic.
I can move over one of these mics. That's a lucky mic, as you know. I'll just move that over here. So Sabrina, I'll let you take it away with your panelists.
Okay, I love it. Actually, can we get the panelists up here because it feels less lonely? Come on up. I am really excited for moderating this panel, and there we go. Just making sure everybody got a seat. and everybody got a say at the table. Yeah, I'm really excited to be here and to moderate this panel. But before we get started, I just want you all to give yourselves some shine, like one of these ones. Give yourself some shine. You're here on a Wednesday night. Feels like everybody in New York is here. And so it's amazing how the space has transformed to allow all of you to just be here. And to also say hi to your neighbor. Look at them and say, "What's up? You're here. We're here." You know? All right, now let's go ahead and bring it back. So before we get started, I just want to ground us in a few remarks. Barbara Smith, a Black feminist icon with the Combahee River Collective, she was a co-founder. She has this famous quote that until Black women are free, none of us are free, because the freedom of Black women would essentially necessitate the destruction of all systems of oppression. I know that's right. So I want to extend that fact and that reality to another group of people, our most creative, our most vulnerable really in our society, which is our systemically excluded youth. And not those with just privileged backgrounds, but those with intersectional identities, multi-hyphenate particularities, and all the above. And so when we create from that perspective and from that lens, we create from a site that's not just the marginals, but the site that is of radical imagination, of radical hope and resilience. And so when we create from that place, we create from a place that is abundant, not marginal. And so for this panel, we'll have a chance to really grapple with what it means to co-create wholeheartedly with youth, to co-innovate, co-design, and really bring them along as we're designing emerging technologies. And so my first question is really an invitation to share your origin story, like however that shows up for you. How did you land here? And we don't have to go in any particular order, but if you feel called and compelled to start, you can kick us off.
I'll start because I'm sitting next to Sabrina. Hello, everyone. My name is Jackie. I work on the global policy and engagement team at Naver Z. We're a South Korea-based company, but with a global user base. Our flagship service is called Zpeto. It is an app that is avatar-based, and it's an immersive social universe where users can generate content, but also interact with one another live in different virtual worlds. My role focuses, chiefly on minor safety policy, but also company communications, which also includes the creation of user resources, external engagement like this, and partnerships which are mainly safety focused. In terms of my origin story and what brought me to this space, I'm actually new to tech. I've been with the company for just under 2 years. And before that, I won't rewind too far back or go through my LinkedIn, but I guess the role that most aligns with what I'm doing now is for almost 4 years, I worked on the public affairs team during the Adam Newman era at WeWork. And where that aligns closely to the work I do right now, adjacent to trust and safety, is a lot of my job is, one, assessing risks and consequences related to business decisions at a tech platform, who it affects and how to mitigate or avoid them. Second is talking to leadership or different teams and saying, that's a really cool idea, but maybe we should pause and think about it before we do it. And lastly, just having incredible weight and importance on having genuine care for our users, customers, and audiences. I'm gonna throw it to Joshua.
Hi, y'all. I'm Josh. I use he, they pronouns. I'm a creative lead at Hopelab, which Hopelab is an organization. It's a mixture of a venture. We do venture funding, and then we're a social innovation lab. So it's a really interesting combo. We're supporting teams, organizations, individuals, founders that are working on solutions to support the mental health and well-being of young people. My route to Hopelab has been kind of all over the place. I studied chemical engineering at university, did that for about 5 years, was wearing very butch clothing and flame retardant clothing, steel-toed boots, a hard hat, and realized that wasn't the route that I wanted to go, and started to find my way in the world of design. So I started my career at a firm called IDEO, then spent a couple years there, thinking about the way that creative and innovative teams function, then moved to another design firm called Doberman, and then finally found my way to Hopelab, where a lot of my work is focused on the ways that we bring young people into the work that we're doing. We're an organization that's focused on supporting young people, and we believe that doing that is not possible without young people involved. So it's a big part of our work, and excited to be in conversation.
Hi everyone, my name is Jhamilya. I'm 22. For context, I'm supposed to be the youth here. But I started being interested in tech ethics when I was about 16, and I started creating technology when I was 10 years old. So I've kind of been here for a while, and I'm now at college. I'm a junior studying anthropology and data science. So I'm kind of like very passionate about learning about life from like macro scale down to like individual nuances and context. So that's why I chose those two majors. And as a freshman, I also started PrivaZy, which is like a collective of college students who are interested in privacy and want to raise awareness and address privacy issues that are particular to Gen Z. And I've also had experience internet meta, like one of my summers during college. And that's when I first realized that there is quite a disconnect between like what companies promote in their like mission and yeah, the goals that they set compared to like the metrics that they create for success of their products, because I interned as data scientist. So even I remember from the interview when I was like creating metrics for this product or like feature we were reviewing, I've done a lot of work like kind of figuring out how the product will work out if we like roll it out. But I've realized that the final decision kind of always came down to the main metrics that they had, and one of them, which is like daily number of users, which to me it seemed like had nothing to do with the connection that they were promoting or what the product was actually for. And so that kind of like what I've experienced working there as well. But at the same time, I've also learned about a lot of like well-being tools that they were creating, which was amazing. And I've heard that it was like about 36 that they rolled out last year or something like that, which is more than like certain countries. So I definitely saw like kind of like the two sides of the industry, and that's what made me kind of want to dive deeper into the research and what well-being really means and what it means to create metrics for well-being and not just for like just random numbers. So yeah, then I interned at Berkman Klein Center, focusing more on like children's rights, and now work at the well-being lab at my school. So yeah, that's my story.
Hello, everyone. My name is Bzu Shiferaw, and I'm with the nonprofit organization Fairplay. And for context, I'm also the other youth person on the panel. And I think because my frontal lobe hasn't fully formed, I think that's the good rule of thumb. But I've been with Fairplay for about 2 years, and I am the campaign organizer there. And we kind of have two prongs to our organization where we work with members and parents and professionals who care about this work. And we also focus on campaigns. So we do some legislative advocacy, and we also do campaigns on emerging tech that we think is harmful for children. And I think that this is this first job outside of college, and I've always had a passion for storytelling and uplifting people. And I've had this childhood where half of it was before the era of smartphones and social media, and half of it was after. And I saw that shift just with my own peers. And that really made me care about being a part of this space. And I met with Fairplay, and I felt like, wow, this is a community of people who actually care about these issues. And I've had experience with it. So I'm really excited to be here. And thank you all for having me.
I love asking that question because as someone who had a super unconventional pathway to where I am now, it feels a little bit validating that we're all, our paths are not always linear, but we're here, and our past really does inform the choices that we make to land us where we are. And so Josh and Jackie, I have a question. From your perspective, how can tech products better cater to the well-being of young people?
Yeah, I have a thought. I said a little bit in my intro. I think that the biggest mistake a lot of organizations will make is that they don't involve young people in the work. So by trying to create something for a community without that community involved is going to fail. It should fail because it's not involving the people who are going to be receiving that support or receiving that care. So I think first, co-creation, like that's something that is unnegotiable for us in our work. And I think treating young people as experts is incredibly important too. I think often young people will be invited into work and then they're not paid for their perspective. And think about that for a minute. Would you invite an expert to give you feedback or advice and not pay them? Probably not. So I think valuing the input that young people are giving to your work is also really valuable.
Echoing exactly what Joshua said, I think it was a quote that I heard first at an All Tech is Human event, which is not about us without us. And that rings so true in all the efforts related to youth, especially. And from a platform perspective, I think all of us here, adults have a very slippery tendency to assume that we know more and we know better. And perhaps years of our own experience have made us think, oh, I know better than my younger self. The reality is we have no idea what youth are facing today and what their perceived reality is. So really reaching out to youth, involving them in the process, getting their feedback, taking those insights and doing something with it is really critical. And the second part of my answer from a platform perspective is, the next step is what do you do with it when you get that feedback and insight? And I visualize it kind of like a concentric circle of, the first one at its core is either you as the individual or the team who sought that out. The next one is your organization. And the outermost is the industry, or in this case, the tech industry. And with the first one, you've gotten that feedback, you have it, you have that knowledge, you talk to them. Yay, we consulted them, we paid them. And the next step is share it across your organization. Go to cross-functional teams. People are busy, and there's a lot of teams whose priority is not, oh my gosh, what did your interview with a group of 15-year-olds say? They are going against different business priorities, but it is your responsibility to go to them and make it matter. The next kind of concentric circle of your organization from a tech company perspective is hire good people from very diverse expertise, fields of study, and backgrounds. As you have probably met people in this room, most people have had a nonlinear path coming here, which means they have unique lenses to the different problems that are coming up, problems that we don't know that we're about to face. And having all of those in a room and having that expertise is going to be really valuable. And to get there, actually, most importantly, you need leadership buy-in. You need the support, sponsorship, and commitment of the top to actually push these initiatives forward. So that's really critical. And then lastly, sorry I'm going on so long, the industry perspective. And I think this is it comes on in two pillars, which is normalizing the necessity and presence of wellness and well-being in digital experiences. This means in your app, at least at any tech platform, oftentimes safety rides in the sidecar. If you say, hey, wouldn't it be good if we had a safety alert here about this thing? The response is, it's bad for user experience. It disrupts the UI. They don't like it, or it'll drop our DAU. The reality is, so what? What if it helps? And what if, again, it's about managing expectations? What if people expected that this would happen? It's fine. It's not going to kill the product. Normalizing that within your product and that experience is something we need to prioritize. And then from the whole industry sphere, what's important is, what if this were consistent and familiar across digital platforms? What if it were not a competitive disadvantage that we disrupted the UI and users were used to something like that? I get, pop-ups of, rate my app. I've never done it. But what if instead it was a question of, hey, how did our app make you feel the past few months? Are you okay? Good? Smiley face, medium face, sad face? Get creative, whatever it is. What if wellness were normalized and regular, not just in your platform, across platforms? And I make this comparison a lot, but it's like no one's going to not go on a certain airline because they have a safety video that disrupts takeoff. Everyone, it's normalized across the industry. We expect it, we know it, and hey, we're better for it. Everyone knows where a life vest is. Everyone knows how to put on a seatbelt, and that needs to be equivalent in digital spaces, especially for youth.
Thank you, Jackie. Bzu, as a youth advocate, can you share some real-world examples of how technology impacts the experiences of young people, both positively and negatively?
Yeah, I think that's a super important question. And I think when we think about harms, it's kind of a never-ending list that grows every day. But thinking about like my own childhood, when I've had that before and after era of before smartphones and after, just thinking about how that changes our way of ideas and connection to everyone. I think that that's a big positive, is we want to connect with people. We want to be able to explore things. But I think that it's really the business model, as Jackie was pointing out before, of optimizing for engagement that creates all of these negative harms. So we're thinking about design features like autoplay and doom scrolling, and thinking about algorithmic recommendations that give you pop-ups to things that maybe you weren't searching for. And I've heard things in my own work of someone looking up sports content and then later receiving eating disorder content. So thinking about things like this and changing that kind of business model, where we're not trying to quantify popularity with likes and follower counts, this creating this fear of missing out, creating this comparison cycle and loop for young people, which can be so detrimental. So I think it's really important that we acknowledge these harms, but also focus on solutions and changing that business model so we can hold social media companies accountable for these harms.
Thank you. Jhamilya, can you discuss the role of privacy and data protection in creating a safer and more well-being oriented social tech for young people?
Yeah, of course. So when I started PrivaZy, I kind of like decided that, I mean, I've noticed that we're like losing privacy. There's so much information collected about us, and then everyone is just screaming privacy, privacy. And I was like a freshman in school, so I just wanted to kind of get some of my friends together to talk about what it really means, like to be losing so much privacy, and what even is privacy. And I realized that like I came into this with like my own understanding of what is appropriate in terms of privacy and how much information is appropriate to be collected. But what I've realized is that every single young person has their own understanding of what's appropriate for them, and it depends on their like life stage as well. Because as we're like growing up, of course, we're trying to get more independence. So yeah, I've noticed that there are young people for whom being private means to have nothing on the internet about them at all. For other people, it means that for example, if you ask them, oh, if you Google yourself, like, how do you feel about that? There are people who feel that there's not enough information about them online. Like, they want to be out there, they want their words to be heard, and they don't understand why like adults feel like you have to just like only use social media like when you like, for example, social media, when you're like watching it, but don't post as much as you can. And then in terms of like digital footprint as well, it's like kind of like the emphasis again is always on like the data collection, and it's kind of like not realizing that the reality is there is a lot of information collected and things will keep getting leaked until we kind of like resolve the security issues. But we shouldn't be punished for what we've shared when we were 14 years old. Like, I don't think like people should lose access to education or healthcare or like credit card just because of some nonsense they said when they were 13. So I think to me right now, it's kind of more about data use, like appropriate data use, instead of just overly focusing on the data collection. So yeah, and that's why we started PrivaZy, to kind of just talk about these issues, and we were able to create the space for us to reflect on our own experiences and how we use like social technologies, which was like very beneficial long term.
Thank you. One thing about young people, they know when you're faking it, and they can smell the funk, and it makes it really difficult to co-create with them. So Josh, I have a question. What strategies have proven effective in ensuring meaningful and authentic engagement when it comes to co-creating with youth?
Yeah, totally. It's a good question. And that's very true. I've been in rooms with groups of young people who do smell the funk or like call out our shit. And it's amazing. I think that's why we try to work with young people, because if we're able to create a space where they feel comfortable to share that type of feedback, it's incredibly helpful. I'll give a short example. A couple years ago, I was working on a product at Hopelab that was trying to create a mental health tool for LGBTQ plus young people. And the goal of it was to help them deal with the stress. It's called minority stress, but the stress that they feel on top of the everyday stress that most people feel as a result of how society perceives them, and makes it really hard for them to live how they are. So we had an idea for a product, and it was actually a version of a product we created previously that was like a chatbot. So we had created this chatbot previously for young people who had gone through cancer treatment to help them deal with that like shift in their life. And it was teaching them positive psychology skills. So we're like, okay, great. We have this chatbot that worked for young people who had gone through cancer treatment. Maybe we could just tailor it for young queer people. So we tried that. We built a prototype. We built a chatbot that someone could play with pretty easily. And we took it out to LGBT centers across the country. And without fail, those young people hated it. And that's really humbling as a designer to go to it's something that you worked on that you were excited about and having young people being like, this is not it. And we were so grateful for that feedback because that helped us pivot now to a product that has 80,000 users and young people use, they actually enjoy. And it was because of that feedback that we got. So they do call it out. And I think to your question, it's like creating a space where young people feel safe enough to do that. It takes time, it takes trust. I think as a queer person, showing up in queer spaces was really helpful too, having a shared identity with those people. Cross-generational sharing was also really valuable there. And I think it comes down to just building a relationship with the people that you hope to support.
Thank you. Bzu, what do you think adults misunderstand when it comes to advocating for youth?
Yeah, I think Joshua touched on a lot of the points that I wanted to bring up, but the biggest thing that comes to mind is that youth are the ones who've had a childhood that is intertwined with technology and they've really grown up, so they need to be at the forefront of these conversations. And I think a thing that comes up a lot is a lot of older people will say, well, we want this to be healthy and to be safe. But when we're really thinking about it, youth don't want healthy, they don't want safe, they just want autonomy and a space to explore with freedom. And so that's really important for us in our work at Fairplay. And one of the programs that I'm really excited about co-leading is Next Gen Connect, which is our youth advocacy program. And through this program, we really put youth at the forefront of their own ideas for projects in the tech advocacy space. And we pair them with mentors who can actually help uplift their project. But we want to make sure that they are the ones who are leading this experience because they are the ones with the most experience. So putting them at the forefront is really important.
Love it. Jackie, as someone who develops policy for youth safety, what do you hope technology companies can do to collaborate with younger users in the future of this space?
I think the theme of the evening is involve youth, talk to them directly. So just repeating exactly that again, not about us without us. It really is bringing them into the room, having them part of the process. And also, if you don't have access directly to youth, which few of us do, consult experts or people who do. For us, one of the best projects we did this year was we worked with No Filter. For those of you who are not familiar with the organization, they're the youth digital safety arm of Thorn, and their goal is to empower young people across the world, but chiefly in the U.S. for now. With knowledge and resources on how to navigate online spaces over a variety of topics. So we consulted with them over a 6-month project with the goal of developing youth-specific guides for our platform. And we had the opportunity to host a workshop with their Youth Innovation Council, which is a group of 20 or so 13 to 17-year-olds with diverse backgrounds across the country. And it was, as you said, a humbling experience, hearing their feedback on our platform, what they thought of the app, not just in terms of safety, but in general, understanding how they navigated the app, what they thought of our safety resources, where it was lacking, how they want to be approached, how they digest content. For us, it's like, oh, we put out a guide, but who's going to read that? They're not going to, no young person is going to go to our safety center website and click youth guide and go to one of them and read through the whole thing in an effort to be safe. It has to be delivered to them also in a way that fits the way that they take in information and remember it. So that was pretty incredible. All to say, again, it really involves having them in the room, getting their feedback, asking the right questions, digging deeper, and giving them the space to do that.
Thank you. Jhamilya, as someone who founded PrivaZy, what were some aspects that were often overlooked but are crucial for youth when it comes to creating ethical tech solutions? We talked a little bit about some hiccups you've experienced mobilizing these efforts with adults. I'd love if you can talk about that.
Yeah, definitely. I remember when I first started, I actually became interested in tech ethics when I was in high school. And I remember coming to New York City here to go to some panels and talks. And one of my favorite places was Data and Society Research Institute. And I remember just going there and I tried to read like the reports, and they were so amazing. I didn't understand anything at first. Like it was the first time I've read word surveillance, and I'm like, what is this? And especially like English is not like my first language, so I just remember like I could feel there's so much useful information that isn't being translated for like younger people, because we started creating technology as young as like middle school, at least like in many schools here also. And so I just decided to kind of like start talking to people more about my personal interest in privacy specifically. And I remember like I was never kind of like looked down upon or like not supported. It was always like, oh, that's cute, like keep going, like this is amazing, like this is important. But I feel like the first time when we finally were like able to be taken seriously was like here at the All Tech is Human. And then also Lookup Innovation Challenge, when there are certain organizations that I could feel that they consider us kind of like, yeah, again, as you said, like co-creators, or that we have something important to share. So I've always gotten support, but I think like considering young people as like experts of their own experience was very important for me. And then when I was starting, kind of like the idea for PrivaZy was that I'm bringing together college students that are not just like computer science or like cybersecurity, but actually from every single field. So we have like, some of my friends are doing like medical anthropology, political science, English, and we just like come together to talk about privacy, not in a way to like create a product or like a solution. It's more to just like reflect on our behavior online, like why do we use like social technologies? What does it mean for us? Like how are we using them? And so I feel like because of creating that space, we're able to like reflect and talk to each other as peers, and then make decisions about our lives, and also create more healthier like uses of social media and social technologies. And only later on, when I started working at Youth Media Wellbeing Lab at Wellesley Centers for Women, I realized that that's actually like a proven case, that when you get young people to talk to each other about their own experiences, they get to reflect, and that actually leads to less risky online behavior compared to when like you're talking, for example, to an adult who has like a strong stance that, well, social media is bad for you, whether you're like having fun there or like it's not good, like I'm not gonna listen to you, it's just like stop. Like, or like adults, like they, I think sometimes like pay too much attention to like monitoring or like age restrictions, like parental controls, when that kind of like removes the understanding that we are using social media. Like you can't just like be like out of touch. Like as young as 8 years old, like they do get on social media and like social technologies pretty early on. So I feel like it's important to meet them where they are and not deny them their experiences, but kind of like just, if you're interested in seeing like what they're going through, just like do it with them, like co-browse or like play a game together, like see what is it that like drives them to that technology, like what do they like about it and what do they not like about it, so that it's not about like monitoring but more about guidance. So that's kind of what I got out of starting PrivaZy. But overall, like there is a lot of support and it was amazing, and I feel like it works, like getting young people together, but I don't know yet like how to scale that, but at least like it has helped a lot. Yeah.
I love it. Just from talking to you all, I realized that in some capacity, you're all creators and cultivators and founders. And so I'm curious, what do you think the role of the creator is in this plight? And anyone can answer. This is a general question.
I mean, I have a thought that this is a hill I will die on too, is that I think every single person is creative. Like every single person in this room, I've done activities where people, you get them to draw, and people without doubt will be like, well, I can't draw, I'm not creative. That's a lie. Like all of you are creative. So I think if you believe that belief with me, then I think it's important to encourage that in people, because I think we all have the ability, we all have a different perspective. We all have an ability to bring that perspective to our work. And by treating everyone as a creative sort of enables them to share that perspective, I think, at times. So for me, it's about like everyone being on that category of creative and being invited to be creative.
I'm going to piggyback right off of that because that was excellent. Yeah, no, while you were talking, I was thinking of, the squiggle game where, you draw a scribble and then you hand it off to someone to make a drawing that makes sense out of it to some degree. At least from the platform perspective, I think the best we can do is really just facilitate and incentivize. For us, some of the measures we do, we call it incentivize safety. And it's exactly that, where We hosted a couple content campaigns where, the theme is, be kind, and it's, create a post, share what kindness means to you, and we incentivize it with in-app currency or prizes that they just need to, or in my mind, people, but also youth, just need to be prompted. Show them that event or opportunity or reason to do it, because there's so much noise everywhere that we need to create a focal point. And at least from a platform perspective, that's one thing that we can do. And again, I think it's really a matter of recognizing that everyone is a creator and has the ability to be creative.
I'll just add, I think one of the things that's super important is just to embrace collaboration. So that whether that's with designers and platform creators and youth advocates, I think that we all need to be a part of one community. I think that's the way that we'll make a meaningful change in this space. And kind of as you touched on, just grounding ourselves in that humanity, that we want to create a safer world for young people and for ourselves as well. So kind of grounding ourselves in that and moving forward and making sure that we're being as inclusive and open and listening to each other as possible.
I would also have to add, I just think art and creativity is extremely important to, especially I feel tech ethics, because we're trying to create solutions, and at the core, when you're creating solutions, it's a creative process, and that's kind of also what excites me about the future, and us kind of grappling with this AI situation and questioning our own humanity and what does it mean to be human. And I feel that's amazing, because we kind of get to understand that we are not just our minds and our intelligence, we're also bodies, and there's a huge nervous system. We have our hearts and emotions, and it's very complicated, and it's beautiful. And that actually is also intelligence. Our bodies are constantly talking to us, our emotions talking to us. And I feel that's part of being creative in this space, is to really learn how to listen to your heart and your bodies, because they have always something important to tell you. And and also, of course, bringing together across different fields, because at the end of the day, it's it is a collaboration that needs to be done.
I love it. I love asking that question too. And I want to end with a call to action. What is a call to action that you have to improve the digital world, and not just for young people, but everyone in general?
I can jump in here. I guess it's really just echoing a few things we've shared today, which is actually, Jami, you articulated exactly a lot of the thoughts I had before coming to this panel, which is I think we need to stop villainizing social media and technology at children or youth. It's not their responsibility. It's not their problem that they are addicted. We created the issue, and they are the recipients of what we have created, that we need to stop villainizing it and educating them, working through this, strategizing with them. Second would be, again, help us help you, everyone collectively. We really need to normalize well-being, wellness as a priority across digital experiences and tech. And lastly, get creative. There's so many different things and different areas of society that can contribute to the problem. I was talking with Bzu earlier. One of my friends is actually trying to get published with a children's book about media literacy. And I love children's books. They always have one key message, but if any of us remember children's books from our days, that sticks with you. And having that from the beginning in this age will be really, really critical.
I think that's really important, and I love that conversation that we had. One thing that I wanted to mention was just a little bit more about Fairplay's Next Gen Connect program. And I think having programs like this and uplifting them and spreading the word is super important, because we do want youth to be the leaders in this space. And we are accepting applications until the end of this week. So I also wanted to share that with you all. If you are a young person from 18 to 24, we are accepting applications. And this is a 3-month youth-led project, and somewhere in the tech advocacy space, in whatever way that shows up for you. So I'm happy to chat with you all more about it if anyone is interested. And I'm really excited to be here and to continue to have conversations like this. And I think that that's another important thing that we can all take from this.
Maybe I'll add something. It's okay. So just to add on what everyone said, I know that a lot of the times, we love to call young people digital natives, but at the end of the day, we need as much support, and young people need as much support as anyone else, if not more. And I think I would like to emphasize like one idea that I've learned from Youth Media Wellbeing Lab is that this idea of participatory design. And I know I've taken a class also before, like human-computer interaction, and there's like a big emphasis on user research and user testing. So it's like if I'm creating a product, it's like I'm the expert and I'm here inviting this kid to just test my thing, and that's it. But really, it should be kind of like you creating like an experience for your community or whoever you're trying to create the product for, so that they can like participate and show you how they experience it, and kind of like have them from the beginning, like from conceptualization to when you're designing and also testing. Because yeah, again, like if you're creating for a community, they should have as much expertise as you are. So it's like, it's kind of like equal instead of being like, I'm the expert and you're here just to test this thing. Yeah, and I think that's...
And I have two, if that's okay. One, part of my work at Hopelab has been a part of what's called the Responsible Tech Youth Power Fund, which was, it's a group of funders that came together for about $2 million. And then we're giving those grants out to 26 youth-led and intergenerationally led nonprofits that were focused on responsible tech. So I share that because I think my one hope to share with you all is to support the young people in your lives that have ideas, that have projects, that have a vision for how to affect responsible technology or just the technology that's affecting them. You could do that financially. I mentioned they're all 501c3s, so you could donate. You can support them emotionally. You could support them with your brain, with your work. So I think support the young people in your lives. And the second one is to think, if you're building products, think about who's going to pay for it. I know that's like a very unsexy thing to think about. And like as a designer, I really don't have the business mind for that. But it's incredibly important to think about who's going to pay for the thing that you're trying to create. Nearly half of the young people in this country are insured through Medicaid. And if you create a product that you want to support young people, create something that can be expensed through Medicaid. And these are things that I think are really important to think through from the beginning. So consider the way that you can support young people, and then consider the way that they can have access to the things that you create.
Thank you. Thank you all so much. I think it's very clear that with the call to actions are to get involved, to stay organized, to stay connected, to amplify existing resources that exist, and to keep hope very much alive. And I just want to end on one quote by Mariam Kaba that says, hope is discipline, and that we need to make an active choice to keep that hope alive by practicing it every single day as a discipline, so that we can begin to imagine the digital gardens of tomorrow to be safe, to be materialized. And so I just want to end on that note. Thank you so much to all of our amazing panelists. Shout out to all of you.
All right, let's give it up again for Sabrina, Jackie, Josh, Jhamilya, and Bzu. And we are almost going to close it out for the mixer. We're going to be here until 8:30. I'm going to invite my friend Shilpa up here from Project Liberty to tell you a little bit more about Safe Tech, Safe Kids. As I mentioned, talk to Shilpa, Lena, also Joe, and Lara from Project Liberty to find out more about that campaign.
Perfect. Thank you, David. And this was such an amazing panel, so I'm not going to keep you for too long. I know I'm between you and the drinks again, so I always seem to have this job. But I'm just going to take one of the things they did at the very end, which was a call to action. This is such an invested crowd, and these are amazing people who are already part of this issue. If there was one call to action that I want to ask you, which will be, go out there and spread the message a little more. Go demand that accountability, because each of us have a stake in this. I may not be young anymore, but I have 2 young kids, and I very much have a stake in this. So I'm worried about their future. I'm not saying tech is all bad, but knowingly creating those addictive features to keep those young people coming back for more and more to the point of harm is a problem. We have to accept that. And you know, I have worked for a social media company, so I do know the good side, you know, if it's a disaster or a pandemic. It's the emergency helpline. When you have polarized communities, it can bring them together. It can create the connections. But that doesn't take away from the fact that a lot of the features that are on there is a problem, and we have a growing body of research which suggests that there is a long-term impact on certain populations, maybe not all, but those certain people are still important to us. And this is a call for us to step out of the bubble that we have. I mean, I'm not saying this bubble is bad, it's fantastic, and gatherings like this are proof of that. But we need to take this message outside. We need to take it to the people you care, to the people in your lives. And at Safe Tech, Safe Kids, we believe that we all have a right to be responsible for the future we create. We can co-create this better web for a better world. And if you want to learn more about the campaign, as David said, come and find me, Lara, Lena, Joe, Katie, who's also there. So, any of us, or go to the website, it's safetechsafekids.org, or find us online. And we have a bunch of amazing partners, including All Tech is Human. So, come and find all of us, and we would love to help you create that action, create that momentum. Thank you for joining us today.
I just want to, again, thank you. Thank you, Shilpa. Thank you, Project Liberty, Safe Tech, Safe Kids. Again, safetechsafekids.org.